hate. No hype. No fear. We are TFR. Frequency Radio.
You're an enemy combatant of the United States of the New Globe. I will not read you your rights. You don't have any rights. You will be detained indefinitely. Say goodbye to life as you know it. Say goodbye to life.
And welcome to Waking Up the Masses right here on truthfrequencyradio.com. I am your host, Robert Bruce. I am back. Mr. LeBang. Mr. LeBang's with me, of course, always. How you doing, sir?
Hashtag banger. How you doing, man?
Oh, pretty good. Pretty good, man. I do want to apologize. Guys, I have been, so much chaos. So much chaos. You know, the last two broadcasts have been, of Waking Up the Masses have been repeats. And good repeats. Hey, man, good repeats. Yesterday, I think, did Mr. Ralph Epperson again, but I have, almost like pneumonia. I'm finally starting to get better, almost pneumonia at the same time. My two oldest wolf hybrids have been gone for almost a whole week. Literally just came back this morning. I told you about it, man. These guys just, there and back again. A wolf hobbit's adventure.
It was something to do. They were bored at home, man. Winter's over, and they were like, let's get out and have some fun.
Yeah, they're thinking, running away and having fun at, they're 11 and 13. They're thinking, running away and having fun at 2 and 4 was so much better. Yeah, we come home, act like we've done something wrong, sort of scamper around. No, not this time. It's like laid out, like, oh gosh.
Thank God we're home.
What have I done to myself? But they're good, man. They're good. And I'm back. So once again, guys, welcome. Wow, I'm blasting my mic there. Welcome to Waking Up the Masses. A couple of guests today. They'll be on at the half-hour mark. We have Mr. Wayne S. Pierce of American Liberty Radio Network, as well as a gentleman by the name of Nick Tucker of Distorted Reality, who gets into secret societies and the Illuminati and stuff like that. So, hey, should be a good show today, my friend.
That's what we're hoping for.
But agendas. Man, when I look at, I'm just fascinated every day at the, what do you want to call it? How insane the world is, how everything's just upside down. Ever so often, if we look at history, ever so often there's a crazy time in history. And right now we got that crazy time. We're on the crazy train, man. Right now we got that crazy time. If you look back, truly, if you look back, it's hard to find a section of the vast continuum, where you see such chaos. Now, you can see chaos, but we can see chaos in history, but such chaos is such rapidity. The rapidity of chaos going on now, man.
And it's full blown, man. It's nonstop. I even got a letter from one of the people that listened to me on my other show there, and they were talking like they can't believe what's going on, and I'm like, it's insane. What is happening in the world? What do you want to talk about? You sit here and try to think of a show. You can think of 20 shows a day.
It's almost like we're being pushed towards, what would you say? I used to be in the whole New Age, not the modern day New Age, but the New Age things. I was a very, very big follower of, back in the 90s, man. Back in the early 90s on forward, I was a real big follower of a gentleman by the name of Terrence McKenna. He was like, I guess you would say he sort of carried on in a very intellectual way the mantle for Timothy Leary. In a truly very intellectual way. His writings, the stuff he got into is fascinating. Very, very fascinating. So, but once again, we have someone involved in what I believe, and sadly, later in life, I look back, I'm like, he was part of those guys. He was part of that whole little mind control oligarchy, or at least he was being used. But he always talked about this singularity, that this time, what he called time wave zero, where we reached a singularity. But it's interesting if you look back at him in his writings and his speeches that he gave, his talks, he talks about how man would eventually blend and man would eventually blend with technology. and we would reach this kind of singularity. And well, no, it's interesting because this guy was a big psychedelicist. He was a big, yes, indeed.
Doing too much acid, man. That's
But
all.
no, he
doing too much acid.
Well, I have to say, he had a very intelligent approach. He only got into the whole shamanic approach and what these different cultures did. That actually used it in a right way, I guess you could say. But he got into this whole thing. Computers had really, as far as everyone starting to own one, had really just started taking off. And it was this proposal that we would eventually reach this singularity, and that singularity was when man and machine finally melded and became one. And then, only then, would the whole idea of, that psychedelic opening your mind thing really be able to be realized. But not through the psychedelics, but through technology. He brought about this idea. Now, I'm not saying I adhere to this idea. I'm just saying he brought about this whole idea that man has always been moving something. We move rocks from one place to the other and we stack them up on top of each other.
Right.
And so that we would continue to always move some sort of object. It might be technology towards an endpoint. We would always move it towards an endpoint. It seems like that's what I'm saying, man. Are we heading towards some kind of singularity? But it happens to be that singularity is the desired condition of those that wish to take control. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was fast. Let me tell you, man, that was fascinating back then. The mind of a early, mid, and late 20s young man listening to this stuff. It was like, wow, that's fascinating. But I know better. I know better in this day and time. But,
they're trying to get us there.
It's that whole idea, man becoming God. Man becoming God. Man becoming that most, as the Persian magi, these priest kings were trying to achieve, as well as many secret societies afterwards, that most perfect man type. That's their belief. They are the ones with the most perfect man type.
And whoever is in charge is deciding which man type it is.
Yeah, public sentiment. Hey, we see public sentiment changes, and it changes the whole sentiment of the populace with their whole mass sheeple gathering ideas. They throw out some good grass. The sheep like to graze on the grass they get. But has really anything changed behind the veil? I wonder this when I look at different secret societies throughout history, and I see them oppose each other. When you see them oppose each other, they're at each other's throat. Is this, really what are they just really reflecting? Well, first giving the public their sentiments. And then they need a object. As with the secret societies, they always talk about the object that they're trying to achieve. They need a different object for different kind of people. Maybe some, it's about crushing this guy they see as bad. Maybe for some, it's about taking the wealth away from those that have it.
Yep. Doesn't matter what it is.
They got to work.
If they want to move an agenda, then that's all it is an agenda.
Indeed.
Now, if they want to move it somewhere, you can find people to get behind you for sure.
Yeah.
Because people are already separated by their beliefs and stuff. So, I mean, if you grab a particular belief and push it right, man, you can push that, and you might not even be able to stop it if you push it too hard,
Oh, hey man, GSP Manzini, I like to repeat this quote. Learned discussions are neither necessary or opportune. There are regenerative words which can contain all that need to be often repeated by the people. Liberty, rights of men, progress, equality, fraternity are all that the people will understand when opposed to by the words despotism, privileges, and tyranny. So, they gotta they really do, man. They sincerely have they got good talk speak, I guess you could say. A lot of these guys, what's his name? Albert Pike. Albert Pike right here. He writes, this is a letter to Manzini. Let me make sure this is the right one. I just brought this up because I was thinking about it. But, because they like to blow, I truly believe a lot of these older, Masonic writers from the 1800s to 1700s, they like to blow smoke up people's butts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they might have liked to do it literally, but Pike says,
well, they might. You never know.
But let's see, was this Pike? I had a good quote by Pike. that I was trying to bring
There's
up.
a lot of weirdos in that part of the human existence.
Oh man, you're not kidding. Yeah, you truly are not kidding. In that whole human existence of these individuals, yes, there are a lot of weirdos. Look at Albert Pike, Aleister Crowley, GSP Manzini. I could go on and on. You had all these guys that were just twisted, man. They truly were twisted. It was well known. It was well known in Arkansas that Pike liked to head up into the Ozarks, take a big wagon full of liquor, lots of food, and this is like post-Civil War. Liquor, lots of food, and a bunch of prostitutes. And he had his own stone phallic throne out in the middle of the woods. A phallic-shaped throne out in the middle of the woods. And he would sit there and just get all stuffed with food, and drunk with liquor, prostitutes.
And have a LeBanging good time.
He would have a John LeBanging good time. Yes, he would.
That's right.
And then he would come back.
I don't even have that good of a LeBanging time.
See, Pike understood. I'm not saying it was a good thing, okay? But Pike understood what he talked about when he talked about forming these lodges of adoption, which were nothing more than Masonic whorehouses. Hey, here you can get your rocks off, you can do this, you can do that, and you don't really bring it into the great work of achieving, that object.
Yeah, if you don't like mom, then you can have the daughter, because I guess we're going to offer them all up.
That's what they did. That's exactly what they did. Why wouldn't they? Is their doctrine not about destroying, their doctrine truly is about destroying the family, morality.
Their own, though, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's right. It's right. Albert Pike talked about it in an address to the Supreme Council of Masonry in 1885. It says, he talks about, their little motto on their 33rd degree jewel, is, what is it? Let me see if I can, it's dus mimke jus, I think. Dus mimke jus, which means God am I right. It means God am I right. But, is that really what it means? The DMJ, as Pike says, he says the DMJ. The order demands immediately enforcement of DMJ. Nevertheless, dus mimke jus. And guys, you can look for the 33rd degree jewel of the Scottish Rite, and you will see that right there. Order ab chao along with it, and dus mimke jus. He says at different epochs of life of the nations which have the good fortune of possessing an active Supreme Council, and from 1820 on, certain similar communications have been made to certain chosen members of the Grand Consistories and Supreme Councils respectively. It is necessary to give the secret to this order. Exoterically, DMJ are the initials of the motto of the 33rd degree, Dus Mimke Jus, or God in my right. Esoterically, these are the initials of the words destruction, materialism, and imposition, which is destruction, impose destruction on everything that resists materialism. He goes on to say the 3 points mean that the Masonic work of destruction, materialism, and imposition are triple. You must impose destruction on supernaturalism, that's what they called religion, on authority, and on any anti-Masonic activity. Hey, that would say, Mr. LeBang, would that be any conspiracy activity? Sort of like you see England now, France now, saying, oh, these conspiracy theorists are bad, we need to go after them.
It might be a conspiracy theory. You never
know.
He
says you must impose materialism upon the conscience, upon education, and upon the state. And you must impose on the family, on the nation, and on humanity. Whether Pike was the one that got one of these balls rolling, I think he got a lot of them rolling up in the Ozark Mountains, but unless he was one of these guys that got the ball rolling, or not, his doctrine seems to be fulfilled even in this day and time. It is all about the destruction of any kind of religion, any kind of belief. Hey, maybe they even will let one belief destroy the other. Why not? Let's let this one guy destroy these guys, and then we'll go after them. Hey, brown shirts, SA, anybody think of these guys? Authority. Now, I'm all about a destruction of authority, which I always say. These guys always throw in something that you read, and you're like, well, yeah. Pike even goes in to say, we might have to use this, but we might have to use that. But he's talking about the power of what he calls the power of the pen. But let me go through his little DMJ. The destruction of materialism, and what he says, which he says esoterically mean destruction of materialism and imposition, the imposition upon the family and on the nation and on humanity. Yes. This has happened. Materialism of the conscience, of education, of the state. Yes. This is why we live in such a narcissistic world in our day and time.
Yeah. No doubt about it, my friend.
People are nuts, man. But
you said that's the initials are DMJ, right?
Yes, but he says exoterically. Hey, this is esoterically. This is his address to the Supreme Council in Paris in 1885. He says esoterically, they mean destruction, materialism, and imposition. Yes, I know. Imposition. So, but Pike also, and let's see, this would be Inner Sanctuary, page 547, volume 4. He says, with tongue and pen, with all our open and secret influences, with the purse, and if needed, with the sword, we will advance the cause of human progress and labor to enfranchise human thought, to give freedom to human conscience, and equal rights to the people everywhere. So you see these guys, just like Adam Weishaupt. That's why Adam Weishaupt was attractive. His ideas were attractive to Thomas Jefferson. You know, Thomas Jefferson did not understand truly what had fomented and came from the French Revolution, and he even said that in his writings about Adam Weishaupt. He said, we'll have to see what's come from this grand enlightenment that's taken place in Europe. But they always throw out some good stuff. Adam Weishaupt, very, very open to, yes, we have to give the people rights and there can't be this despotism from tyranny. Indeed, but it always seems that they have isn't that almost opposite of what he just said, though, in his address to the Supreme Council? This is something everybody can read. Now, of course, the address to the Supreme Council in our day and time with the vast media network, it's something we also can read. But this is something everyone can read in the Inner Sanctuary, volume 4, page 547 with Albert Pike. Where he says, hey, with our open, secret influences, the purse, and maybe with force if we have to, we're going to advance the cause of human progress and labor and human thought, and give freedom to human conscience and equal rights to everyone everywhere. So which side is the smoke being blown up our butts, man?
Right, but he uses tricky language when he talks about equal rights. He doesn't say how equal they will be. They will be equal on the low end. We're never equal with everybody having everything they ever wanted.
Indeed. And see, they're equal. You're right there. See, they're equal rights. You have to remember, this guy was Manzini's number one man. I always think of
these guys are politicians. They speak politician talk.
When I read about these guys and everything, what I always think of? Remember the first Batman with Keaton in it? Mm-hmm. Remember the first Batman movie with Keaton in it? Remember the Jack Nicholson as
Wait did they get a load of me?
Yeah, but he's always goes, "You are my number one," and he's like, that's what I always think about these guys. They're nuts in the head. We know that people can be crazy, do we not? We know people can be crazy. Why can't these people be crazy?
No, and they're the craziest of them all. When we look back on them historically, these guys are nut jobs.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Maybe not at the time, because they have ideas that people cling on to. Klingon. That's a Star Trek reference.
That's right. Photon. It's double speak. It's the same as this, this little weak jackball that we have in the White House now. Remember? I'm all against that. I'm all for this. I'm all blah, blah, blah. But in this day and time, of course, we have to have an open conspiracy now. It seems more and more. He's like, well, I have these evolving ideas and I've changed my mind. Or even some of the stuff that he's kept private. You keep finding these videos that pop up where you find out this guy does not have your best, maybe he has the best intentions for a very small group, but he does not have your best intentions. Their intentions in the end are to be the proletariat.
In fact, Mike, I do believe the New World Order switched hands around 8 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever. Which
direction do you think it went?
Not in anything I want to go, but
no. Like what did you see it was, and which direction do you think it went?
I think it just switched into more of more. It's going to be more secular or anti-religion I think this one is, which I think this is now we're seeing the literal beginnings of the face coming out. How you're saying it's more in the open. I think
Yes.
this part of the operation or whatever you want to call it is also coming out in the open. And we're switching sides.
Two very big players, H.G. Wells, Carol Quigley. They had no problem in their writings and talks. They had no problem with the idea of a conspiracy about a new world order. Mm-hmm. They just felt it needed to be an open conspiracy. You will find some of the first members of like the CFR, the Trilateral, who was that H.G. Wells. He's right. H.G. Wells, fascinating character because not only was he writing all this sci-fi stuff and everything, it was just ideas really. What was that one movie, Wings, What Might Become, or something like that. It's an old black and white movie, but it was a book he wrote. And you just have to watch it, man. You have to watch it. A lot of his stuff is very New World Orderish. Many writings that he wrote, well, that's what it was about. He was, he helped train the Huxley boys, Aldous and Julian, on how to subvert, at the Tavistock Institute. Right. On how to subvert people's minds. And then, hey, he taught them all he could. He handed them off to the Golden Dawn. Guess who was there? Aleister Crowley. It's like, hey, yeah, let's polish this up a little bit with a little bit of nastiness. So over and over again, so many connections. I don't really believe, man, and I think this is one problem that you will find within the conspiracy community where we research these things. We do tend to give too much credence to individuals.
For sure.
We do. Why don't you just see somebody's idea and run with it? 1700s are a fascinating time because you had a lot of control from different groups, and then they were brought all under one veil. And then it just was thrust out and it became that bloody horror that it did eventually with the French Revolution. But in our day and time, I believe we have more of an open, like you said, I believe we have more of an open conspiracy. And it's almost like they want to desensitize us. They want to desensitize us to everything that's coming out, and that's the best way. With an open conspiracy where you constantly see somebody that's lying to you, that does not care about you. They care about, hey, maybe they care about themselves, but they don't care about you. When you voted for this person, you're expecting them to work within the parameters. Hey, you represent me. And they over and over, literally almost, thumb their nose. Give you the backside, man. Here, kiss this. Even worse things, I guess we could throw out there. That's what they're saying. Yeah, okay. This was the proletariat. People would scream out in the Soviet Union, help us. Yeah, we'll help you a little bit. Here's a loaf of bread. Go at it. Have a good day. We love you. We support you. We represent you. But you're all part, and that's one thing I keep noticing. Are you not disgusted, John? Hillary. I know, it's all a big selection season.
But who else are the Democrats going to really throw up there? So she's next in line just because there's nobody else.
But it's sickening. This is what we have, man. Okay, what are you going to get? You're going to get this jackball or that jackball. And guess what? They're all going to play on your little emotions. Some of them are going to make you misandrist out there. Just go, oh, but she's a woman.
Exactly.
She's a woman. That makes me absolutely sick. You know what? What if we started our masculinist movement, John? Because we got, because there's the old cucumber and tomatoes down there. Hey, that's what it's all about, because we have a dangler, because we got the schmeckle. We're going to start, that's why we should vote for somebody. This whole male-female thing, especially in this country, there's so much disinformation that's put out on the constant, inequality and everything like that. And also in a country that does not, see, here's the thing, guys. You live in a country that does not believe in the suppression of women. That does not believe in the suppression of women. I'm from seeing women friends that were put through abuse and stuff. Guess what? There's a whole big dynamic there that gets into the, physical abuse, the dynamic of mind control there. I believe you see that passed down subconsciously from the controllers to people, where they want to abuse in order to control. But they'll be nice later. You'll be nice later. But that whole concept there, that whole concept of, you're the one that has to get out of it. That goes down to any situation where we make excuses and we are abused and we stay within those confines. And I think our modern day paradigm with our government, I always call it it's the abused spouse syndrome. It's the abused spouse syndrome. We don't care. Oh, guess what? Oh, we changed faces. It's an elephant. He looks like an elephant now instead of a donkey, and he loves me. He will never hit me again. Smack. And eventually they become numb to it. You know, but going back to the whole male and female thing, dude, I'm all for it. If you come out and you're a female and you're a presidential candidate and you actually speak to freedom, my gosh, you got my vote.
But this woman has a track record, Robert, and it is literally.
No, she's part of the system.
If we had a sane country that the vote counted and everything, this lady would not even have a shot at the presidency, and you know that. This lady is so dirty, but you know. Here we go. We have Hillary Clinton on the verge, and get this. This. I can't wait for the mainstream news to start this whole thing. When you get a Republican, we know this is all some false dialectic, but the Republicans are going to criticize Hillary for whatever she did in the past, and they're going to be like, "Oh, they're just being sexist." I can't wait for that.
She's a woman.
I can't wait for that.
Good Lord. Well, guys, coming up. Coming up right after our break, that'll be coming up here in just a few seconds. We've got Mr. Wayne S. Pierce from American Liberty, Freedom and Liberty Radio, and also Mr. Nick Tucker from Distorted Reality. Should be an interesting conversation for the rest of the show. So hang in there. We shall return right here on Waking Up the Masses, right here on TruthFrequencyRadio.com.
Chris and Sheree Gio here, founders of Truth Frequency Radio. We just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for making TFR the biggest and the best independent radio station out there.
When we first entered the alternative media scene in 2009, we were really taken aback by the amount of infighting, backbiting, fear-based reporting, and ego-driven personalities. That's when we knew we had to set ourselves apart and set a new standard in broadcasting. And thus, TFR was conceived as a listener-supported station with no corporate or outside influence and limited commercial interruptions.
You can support our efforts by signing up for a VIP membership at truthfrequencyradio.com/signup or by making a donation at truthfrequencyradio.com/donate.
For less than $4 a month, you can ensure that TFR continues broadcasting for years to come. Real people, real radio.
Wherever you are, make it TFR.
A sudden change in the wind. The day grows dark as ominous clouds move in and lightning begins to carve arcs in the sky. And you realize you are not prepared.
I am telling you to take cover.
The number of intense storms is increasing exponentially in the U.S. Tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, and droughts are happening with greater magnitude and frequency. If you are choosing to rely on the government to save you,
And no one's coming to help them.
you could be dead wrong. The first step towards self-reliance in the face of disaster is a visit to MyPatriotSupply.com. There you'll find the absolute best prices on storable foods, non-GMO seeds, emergency water filtration devices, and so much more. All orders over $49 qualify for free shipping in the lower 48. Visit us online or call 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927 and speak to one of our preparedness advisors today. Remember, before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare. MyPatriotSupply.com. Did you know there are 3 million edible food plants on Earth and none have the nutritional value of the hemp plant? HempUSA.org offers you hemp protein powder. It does not contain chemicals or THC, is non-GMO, and is 100% gluten-free. Hemp protein powder burns fat, builds muscle, contains 53% protein, and feeds the body the nutrients it needs. Call 888-910-4367 and see what our powder, seeds, and oil can do for you. Only at HempUSA.org. Wouldn't it be nice to have one product that replaces more than 10, saving you space, time, and money? HempUSA.org has a complete full-spectrum vitamin mineral detox formulation called Micro Plant Powder Gold. Micro Plant Powder Gold contains 101 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and iodine. Has a 100-year shelf life and is a perfect addition to any storage shelter. Make Micro Plant Powder Gold your choice. Call 888-910-4367 or visit HempUSA.org today.
Like a cancer that's silently spreading.
Agent for Truth with Joe Bannister. Sundays on Truth Frequency Radio.
And we are back right here on Waking Up the Masses on Truth Frequency Radio. A couple of guests with us today. We have Mr. Nick Tucker of Distorted Reality and Mr. Wayne S. Pierce of, man, you know, I keep getting it wrong. Is it Free America Radio? Is it America Liberty Radio?
It's American Liberty Radio.
There we go. I got it right the first time when I said it earlier.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. I'd like to introduce to you to my good friend in tow here, Mr. John LeBang. Mr. LeBang,
hello, gentlemen, how are you?
I'm good.
Doing good, sir. Doing good.
So, hey man, it's, just to give you guys, you know, to give the listeners a little background on you guys, I would say flip a coin, but I will just go in order of alphabetically. Mr. Nick Tucker, using first names. Give us a background on yourself and your research and what you've gotten into.
Well, basically, I started about a year and a half ago. I started a podcast, Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker. It's no longer active, but I'm looking to get back into the podcast scene. But basically, I started the podcast because I just had so much information, so many ideas on the New World Order, the Illuminati, so on and so forth, that I just needed to get the message out there. And I was listening to other mainstream talk show hosts, you know, so-called alternative media, and they were hitting points, but I felt that they could dive a little bit further. And that's what I try to do in my podcast and what I do on my Facebook page as well, Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker, is I just put the information out there as best as I possibly can get the message across, for people to, you know, open up their eyes and their minds a little bit more than what they have. You know, I see a lot of these so-called awake people, these so-called patriots that, you know, have everything down to a point, but they seem to be missing the key points to it all, you know, into the New World Order, into why we are, where we're going, you know, where we've been, how it all ties together. You know, just finding that spider web and putting the dots out there and trying to connect them all to figure out, you know, where exactly we are and what we can do to combat the New World Order, because we're getting nowhere as it is. People think that we're gaining ground here and there. While that may be true, in the larger picture, we actually seem to be finding ourselves further into the matrix, and it's just understanding how it all works and trying to connect the dots and, you know, hopefully open up some minds and some eyes and ears along the way.
Indeed, indeed. And when I first discovered your work with Mr. Wayne S. Pierce turned me on to you. I'm always fascinated with your research and stuff. And Mr. Wayne S. Pierce.
Yes.
Oh, wait, let me finish. I forget my manners sometimes. And they can find you, Nick, at facebook.com/ is it the whole URL, Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, facebook.com/ Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker. Good podcast you've had in the past, and I definitely hope you get it back up and going again, man. You do an excellent job. And Mr. Wayne S. Pierce.
Yes.
And I'll get this part done first. Your website is WayneSPierce.com.
Yes.
There we
easy.
go. It is. Give us and I have to say I like Mr. Pierce because he has a very, which let me just say I find it lacking in the Patriot community. An open mind that believes in that freedom that's espoused. But you also have that Southern I think I think your spirit of being a patriotic is sort of displaced. You have that Southern sort of quality to you.
Well, I don't know how to take that. My family's from the North, but okay.
I'm not talking about that old quality now. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about that one in the 1800s. Not that.
No. No, I just, how to answer the first question you asked Nick was, I came to this many years ago looking at, from the Carter administration, and you know how that peanut farmer was. So just looking at all the disasters and all of the political crap that was going on through Reagan and Bush and all of that, I just built up all this information and decided, you know what? I found a platform and I went for it. And that's why I want to bring my live show back, but kind of retooling it a little bit. But I do the podcast every day. And again, the message has to get out. I'm with Nick. I mean, you have to get people aware of this stuff, but you give them guidelines. You go, hey, this is what I know. And it's up to you to go search it out yourself. You're responsible for you. I can't take you by the hand and give you the answers.
Indeed, man. I remember years ago people would tell me stuff. I was involved in, when I say deceptive stuff, just not the new age of today and not what we might call, real religious practices or spiritual practices, but just a lot of messed up beliefs. And people started telling me, it's like, man, you need to look deeper into that. See how far that goes. See how, look exactly what's being practiced. Look, where it comes from. I was like, well, nah. I finally had to do it for myself. It's finally one day I was like, what's that really mean? I started doing some research and I was like, oh, duh. We all have to have the duh moment. And I believe we have to have the duh moment every day because it is a constant learning experience. But, what do you guys think about in our day and time? We see what's going on. I know both of you guys, you've gotten into, looking at the past and all that stuff, but we're in chaos, my friends. I mean, truly, we're in chaos. I look out there and see what really bothers me is there are, and I don't mean to be mean, but there are a lot of people that are not intelligent. Well, let's just say they're not using their creator-given intelligence. Or if they're an atheist, their nature-given intelligence. Whatever. They're not using it. They are using the intelligentsia's intelligence that tells them, oh, look, there's global warming. What if there really was some kind of, with the both sides of the conversation, what if there really was some sort of climate calamity going on that was man-made, but not by our hands, maybe little crisscrosses in the sky. But the whole time we keep arguing on one side. No, there is. No, there's not. I always tell people, it's like, I don't know about global warming, but we have some weather chaos going on more and more every year. Things that happen in places where they should not.
But most people have smartphone intelligence.
Indeed. Spell check.
Yeah, their minds don't autocorrect themselves. That's the problem.
Yeah, I was listening to your podcast today, Wayne. I was listening to it, and you're a little bit meaner than I know. But we do. It's almost like I love humans. That's one thing I'm all about, man. I'm not saying I like all of them, but I love everybody in my species. Because I believe that's what you're supposed to do as a species. You love your fellow species. Yeah. But I see so many of them that are dumbed down, you almost want to have nothing more to do with, let's just be honest, with idiots.
Yeah.
Well, you need them to make fun of them.
But there's not supposed to be that many, John.
Oh, there's a lot.
That's why it's frustrating. It becomes a hard job.
Well, then we never run out of jokes, man. Come on.
Yeah. Jeez.
There's only supposed to be one court gesture, and he was never supposed to have power. That's our problem in this day and time. But yeah, I believe that, we're looking at a crazy time. But yeah, I'm sorry, I got way divergent on the topic there. What do you guys think, man? Look at all the chaos we got going on right now.
Well, Nick, you've been out and about. What have you seen?
Well, I'll tell you this, it goes back to, I was listening to the start of your broadcast, and I totally agree with you that everybody is in this mentality right now, this state of, being abused, and everybody is, so comfortably numb with the idea of being beaten over the head constantly day after day after day with the same issues, but no one seems to dig to the core of that issue and change, true change, for the better. And it goes back to how everybody, complains about their paychecks or complains about their job or complains about this, complains about that. They're looking at the surface, but they don't look underneath the surface. And as I've mentioned plenty of times on my podcast and on my Facebook page, you have to understand the foundation first. You can't build a house or any sort of building without a foundation. And everybody is looking at, the surface, looking through the windows, but what's underneath? What's in the basement? What's, in the foundation itself? How did this all come to be? Who are the key players behind it? And everybody is focused on the political arena with the Republicans and Democrats, thinking that, both parties are different. And even the ones that claim to be awake know at the surface that they are, the same group with two different names, but yet they don't, they don't delve deeper into the issue. The Rand Pauls, everybody's high on Rand Paul right now. I, for one, am not high on Rand Paul. Everybody is high on
Well,
Ted
you're
Cruz.
not high on Rand Paul, man?
My apologies for everyone out there. I'm not on the bandwagon. I'm not on the Rand Paul bandwagon, but, the same could be said for Ted Cruz. I mean, look at, who he is, who his wife, is. Who
You mean Miss CFR?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Both facts and everything else, all of it is right there, in front of us. And as you guys were, pointing out earlier in the broadcast, it's everything is just open. It's open season now. They're throwing everything at us as fast and as hard as they can to keep us distracted from everything else while we're, focusing in on this one issue. Here they are, bringing out another issue. So everybody's, trying to flip around to, research this issue, and they're doing a really good job of keeping us all distracted. It's just up to people like us to, focus on the key issues and bring that out to the forefront.
Yes, it's the Muppet Show. It's a, sunny day, everything's okay. That was supposed to be Sesame Street. But we are concerned with puppets.
Yeah.
That's what really gets me. We concern ourselves with these puppets, with Hillary Clinton, with Rand Paul, with, I'll just say it honestly. I like all of his ideas. I can't knock them. But Ron Paul, even so many people, but, that's another conversation all of its own. That is why after watching that man espouse, honestly, he espoused freedom, the words, just the objective look that come out of his mouth, and how most Republicans treated him like trash. I had to move away. I'm like, you guys, man. And you guys finally are like, all we got's Romney. We better vote for Romney. All we got is John, my friends, Mr. McCain. Let's vote for him. Gosh, this is why I say the majority of our country, the voting populace, well, not the majority, but half of it that could vote. Half of it that could vote, they vote for crap every time. We're in a problem here. Remember, Ross Perot? Do you know what was Ross Perot's big thing? No NAFTA. Larry, can I talk? No NAFTA. And then what was his son at the same time that Ross Perot was running for Congress? Running for president. His son was lobbying the Senate and the Congress to pass NAFTA. NAFTA. So it wouldn't be the first time. It wouldn't be the first time that a deception has been pulled off. Good. And in my crazy conspiracy mind, I sometimes wonder, was Ron Paul really just a real dirtbag? Was this guy? I know I just hurt a lot of people's feelings there. Was Ron Paul really just this guy that was, he's like, well, the hell with it. I'll do it. I'll convince everybody. I have these Jeffersonian ideas and everything, but this is all to get Junior in.
Yeah, but he never got any steam, and if it's just for Junior, then I could see just to have the name. Yeah. And we're going to see a lot of senators running. Junior
pulls the part of the populace that they need, that never would have voted, that never voted for it. They said, hell with it.
Correct.
I'm not voting for Ron Paul. I'm not voting for Romney.
That sweet old Romney. You talking about Romney?
Right, I'm just saying you have a certain populace that says, I'm not going to vote for these guys. After they wanted to vote for Ron Paul, they said, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to vote, or they wrote his name in. But we're talking about a corrupt system. That's what really gets me is, I don't want to, see, I'm not a person, I don't want to get rid of our electoral process. I don't want to get rid of our Congress and our Senate. But the ideas that came about that, that we're supposed to practice, they're not practiced anymore. A lot of people hear me, they'll think I'm anti-Constitution or stuff like that. No, it's just, too much crap's happened. Too much crap's happened. And, the Constitution does not exist. Their part exists. Let me just say their part exists. The articles, except they've taken them too far. That's the problem. Their part, they're working right on, but they've taken them too far. They have given themselves too many rights. The Bill of Rights, they've subverted that. Using their part, they have subverted our part. And, you throw in the Patriot Act, the NDAA, you name it. We can go back and back. It's 1871. Heck, even one of the articles in there that they used, one of the first articles that they, I think it's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, they used that in order for the 14th Amendment to give them control. So these guys are dirtbags. These guys are dirtbags, and we just can't have any. I know maybe it's pie in the sky, but we can't have dirtbags anymore. That really is what it gets down to. I do not have a problem with the process. I have a problem with the crap that's stuck in the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the jokers say, this town needs an enema. I'm just saying, man. I'm sorry about that long diatribe there, but that is what we're looking at. We're looking at individuals that know their powers, but they have exceeded their powers. And by exceeding their powers, they have taken away what would be considered freedoms and rights.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, they've subverted everything from 1871 on. They've taken the organic Constitution our founding fathers wrote and said, here's your protection of your God-given rights. And in 1871, Rothschild came along and said, yeah, we'll buy back the United States because you're freaking broke. So, but here's what we're going to do. In the meantime, as you fumble through your day, we'll create another constitution, a corporate constitution, and we're going to do it our way. And we've been living under that ever since, and everybody thinks it's, oh, this is great, we're doing, no. Can you say getting screwed? I mean, we've been that way for that long.
And speaking of the Rothschilds, I don't think they're the tip of the spear.
No.
But I do believe that they're very operational. You cannot deny them. Mr. Tucker's done plenty of research into the Rothschilds. Nick, did you know that in I don't know if you know this one or not, 1775, this would be a year prior to the official organization of the Bavarian Illuminati. Do you know that Mr. Rothschild, Meyer Rothschild, got his banker buddies together around Europe at a conference to decide, hey, how will we need to fund a revolution, and it sort of needs to be like what was called the Peasants' Revolution in England, but it needs to succeed. We need to overthrow all these kings and religion and stamp it out and bring in basically bring in a communist state where they get to be the proletariat, like in the Soviet Union. But you've done extensive research on these guys, and they're the devil, aren't they?
Yeah, that's putting it mildly, nothing happens unless it's on their control. We might think that we might get a victory here or there, and in some cases we do, but in the larger scheme of things, nothing happens unless they sign off on it. If you want to talk about banker controls, if you want to talk about setting up revolutions, setting up leaders of different countries, as their puppets, we see this happen, throughout history. There's always a money guy. There's always a backer. There's always a player behind the scenes that, nobody is focused on because a large majority of the population have no idea who this person is or who this group of people are. And so they tend to miss that key point. It's just what you said a little bit ago when you talk about, so-called conspiracies and whatnot. People always label you, well, then if you don't like it, why don't you leave? If you don't like what's going on in America, why don't you leave? Well, why do you put up with this? Why are you putting up with all this that's going on in your country? You talked about, being labeled anti-constitutional and anti-American. I get that all the time too. And it goes back to that mentality of being beaten over the head constantly, that they feel that they have no power, that they can't do anything about it. And instead of coming together as a unit and fighting back against the tyranny and fighting back against the NWO and everything else, instead they're just going to call you names. They're going to take the easy way out because that's what they're comfortable with, because that's what they've been given, and that's what they've been shown and told to do, is to, to give in. If you raise your voice anymore, or if you show any sort of aggression anymore, you're labeled a lunatic, a crazy person. Well, how is you living in this country under this tyranny, under this, government control? How is that not being crazy? How is that not being considered a lunatic? You're giving in to the pressure. You're giving in to their dominance instead of fighting back like, we should be doing. Instead, you're just going to throw out labels and names and everything else to throw everybody off guard. I think that's what the core focus should be on, is understanding a way, a route, so to speak, of how to get these people with us on the same track without them coming unglued and saying, well, if you don't like it, why don't you just leave? Well, why don't you leave? If you like it so much, why don't you go to a country that doesn't have firearms? Why don't you go to a country that's even more, controlled and suppressed than we are here? We're headed towards that way, don't get me wrong. But, there's other countries out there that are just as bad, and you seem, to be the one that wants to have that same oppression. So why don't you leave? I'll stay here and fight. Why don't you just tuck your tail between your legs and you get the hell out? It's as simple as that.
It's like I said, both sides of the mainstream political paradigm. I'm very isolated. I become very isolated. Okay, let's talk about gay marriage. Do I believe in gay marriage sanctioned by the government? No. Guess what? I also don't believe in heterosexual marriage sanctioned by the government. The king is not supposed to approve your marriage.
Not in this country.
No, you're exactly not in this country. I'm all about freedom for everyone. I am, the mainstream right, they worry me because they would have a theocracy. They would have a theocracy, and they would tell everybody that didn't follow a certain Christian, let's remember this, a certain Christian guideline, that they were heretics. That's why I'm like, I don't care who is involved in anything as far as creating some idea. I'm all about a secular society. I do not believe that we name ourselves this, but morals are morals. See, this is where we get lost, and this is where a lot of people get lost. They say, well, those are Christian morals. No, not messing with your neighbor's wife, not stealing his stuff, not killing, these tend to be normal morals. It doesn't mean
that's common sense.
Exactly. That's what, my late mother, we always used to talk about this. The 10 Commandments are common sense.
Exactly.
They're moral common sense. It wasn't a time that man was immoral and suddenly he found out, hey, well, this is what I'm supposed to do to be moral. No. This was moral common sense. Moses, if we look at the story, Moses understood, look at these guys. They've got into some kind of narcissistic idol worship. This can't go on. This doesn't work. Don't worship false gods. Don't do this. And, insane, man. Insane. Everything does. It just seems to keep going faster and faster, the stuff they throw in our face. But on the left, see, this is one problem I have with the left. They've co-opted the word liberal. Our founding fathers of that day were considered liberal. That would be the term of that day. You would have given them. They were of the sort of that liberal European idea of getting rid of the oligarchs, getting them out of there. Freedom for everybody. So they were liberal. But look at what I call myself, a Jeffersonian liberal. But look at what it's been co-opted. I can't remember the guy that did it. It was in the 1920s, if I'm not mistaken, and he even said it in a speech that, we'll sort of mask this, as they've always done. We're going to use this to mask the idea of socialism. And eventually those involved in socialism that have even more diabolical ideas bring it to communism. It's nothing new. Same thing they espouse. They just use different words during the French Revolution. Liberty, eternity, for equality for us. They forgot to say for us. They forgot to say that. So that's why the whole political process really disgusts me. And, I know you feel that way, Mr. Pierce. I know as far as I don't know your exact spiritual beliefs, but I see what you say and everything. You can't have it both ways. You can't speak. You see the individuals, they want to have it both ways. Everything has to be about a certain ideology, but freedom. We can't have this. It's got to be freedom for everyone as long as your freedom doesn't come within my freedom.
Exactly.
So for me, you should have the right to do what you want to. Do I think that gay marriage is, do I see it bona fide in my mind? Not particularly, but I don't have any problem with anybody doing it. Do what you want, but it's when things become agendas I have problems with them.
Yeah. I just believe that you do that which is right, and whatever I believe is right doesn't necessarily, you don't believe the same thing, but I don't have a right to force my right upon you. That's just common sense, really. And you have a right to live and breathe and do whatever it is you want to do. I'm fine with that. I'm good with that. I've got family members who are gay, and we talk about it, and they know where I stand, and I'm like, love you. Let's have dinner.
Exactly.
It's like, so what? Big deal. I don't care. But I don't want the government stepping in telling me what I have to do, when I have to do it, why I have to do it, or how. I want to be free to make that decision on my own.
I think if Billy Joe Bubba down here in the sticks wants to have some kind of gay slur, as long as all it has to do is come out of his mouth, I think he has the right to do it. I also have the right to, people also, to tell him, man, you're an idiot for saying that. It's what we have. It's called freedom.
Yeah.
It's called freedom, but there's too many agendas today, too many agendas.
Yeah.
We'll be going to break here in just a few seconds. When we get back, we'll talk more about the Rothschilds. I got on that, and then I got off of it. We started talking about other things, so when we return, we'll get into that. And I would ask you another question, but I know music should be coming in about right now. Okay, guys, we'll be right back here in just a few minutes on Waking Up the Masses right here on Truth Frequency Radio. Hang in there.
Chris and Sheree Gio here, founders of Truth Frequency Radio. We just wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for making TFR the biggest and the best independent radio station out there.
When we first entered the alternative media scene in 2009, we were really taken aback by the amount of infighting, backbiting, fear-based reporting, and ego-driven personalities. That's when we knew we had to set ourselves apart and set a new standard in broadcasting. And thus, TFR was conceived as a listener-supported station with no corporate or outside influence and limited commercial interruptions.
You can support our efforts by signing up for a VIP membership at truthfrequencyradio.com/signup or by making a donation at truthfrequencyradio.com/donate.
For less than $4 a month, you can ensure that TFR continues broadcasting for years to come. Real people, real radio.
Wherever you are, make it TFR. Did you know that the blue lotus flower was used by the ancient Egyptians as an aphrodisiac to experience feelings of euphoria and ecstasy? And ecstasy. And ecstasy. Did you know that Thai kratom was used by the Buddhist monks to produce a relaxing and dreamlike state? Did you know San Pedro cactus was used by the Native Americans to quest for visions and heal the body? Bouncing Bear Botanicals is your #1 supplier of rare and sacred plants and a proud sponsor of Truth Frequency Radio. By clicking on the banner at truthfrequencyradio.com, you can learn more about a vast selection of entheogens, including Amanita muscaria, also known as the sacred mushroom. So click on the banner at truthfrequencyradio.com, and you'll also get up to $40 off your next order.
Judith Baker was once a promising science student who dreamed of finding a cure for cancer. This expose is an account of how she strayed from a path of mainstream scholarship to a life of espionage in New Orleans with Lee Harvey Oswald. In her narrative, she offers extensive documentation on how she came to be a cancer expert and what led to her involvement in the development of a biological weapon that Oswald was to smuggle into Cuba to eliminate Fidel Castro. Details on what she knew of Kennedy's impending assassination and her belief that Oswald was a deep cover intelligence agent who was framed for an assassination he was actually trying to prevent are also revealed. Me and Lee by Judith Baker. Special JFK 50th Anniversary Signed Limited Edition. $30 including shipping. Limited number of these available. Order your copy today at federaljack.com/store.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
You're listening to Truth Frequency Radio.
We are TFR.
And welcome back to Waking Up the Masses right here on Truth Frequency Radio. Disraeli in 1876, guys, he said the governments of this country have to deal not only with the governments, emperors, kings, ministers, but also with secret societies and elements that must be taken into account, which at the last moment can bring all plans to naught, which have agents everywhere, agents without scruples who incite assassinations and can, if necessary, lead to massacre. Welcome back, guys. And Disraeli was, he was one of the English prime ministers, and he was also involved with the Rothschilds. It's, guys, isn't it interesting how they will, they'll spout out something. They're telling you what they're doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, this was an address to the Parliament. This was an address to Parliament. So he was not shy. He was not shy. He seemed to be, yeah, I'm all about your freedom, but not so much. So the Rothschilds, Mr. Tucker, you started talking about, earlier before we went to break, talking about the Rothschilds, talking about the funding. I have found when looking at, revolutions, revolutions of the bad kind which have happened, it seems to be over and over. You have your financing, you have your, operational, which are your up to Manzini on down like that. You sort of have your revolutionaries and what they called in the 1700s your encyclopedists. We call that in our day and time the media. But Rothschilds, give us some background on these guys. Like I said, actually you're a whole lot more schooled on the Rothschilds than I am. And I know these guys are, they're one of the gears. They are one of the gears. They're one of the working mechanisms in this whole diabolical pyramid. But give us what you know about the Rothschilds. How much control do they really have?
Well, the Rothschilds, unfortunately, have more control and more power and more influence than a lot of people out there would like them to have. Let's put it that way. The Rothschilds, they have their hands in on everything, and while they are not the tip of the spear, they are, very close to that tip. They are influenced with, by, and for the Illuminati. They are a part of the Illuminati. They're a part of everyday life that we see it, although we just don't know it's there. When it comes to the bankers, the banking control, the power, the influence of the politicians, that comes from the Rothschilds themselves. They are probably one of the, if not, top three, I would say, families, dynasties out there that have more power and influence than any other dynasty or family. You have to look and ask yourself, what country and which politicians are they not influenced by, who are not paid off and working for the Rothschilds behind the scenes. The influence in America with the Rothschilds can go as far back as, the Civil War and with Abraham Lincoln and everything else. Not saying that Lincoln himself was involved in that, but, the Rothschilds had their hand in it. They had their hand in the American Revolution. You've talked about before, Bob, with the French Revolution and how that kind of played a part with the American Revolution, and the Rothschilds were involved in that as well. They are a very powerful family. They control everything that we see. The media, the print media, the TV media. It doesn't matter what kind of media it is. If it's mainstream, the Rothschilds have their fingers in it. The Rothschilds have their fingers so deep into America that, it's funny that we're on the show today, and today is tax day, the illegal income tax.
Today is tribute, not call it what it is, man. Today is tribute day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's exactly how you could call it. How many Americans out there are aware that our income tax, what we pay into this pool go to the Queen of England? I bet you not a lot of people know that. How much land in America does the Queen of England even own? Not a lot of people know that. And the Queen of England is directly tied with the Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds have, her on strings. She's a puppet as well as Obama or Rand Paul.
Oh, indeed, man. There was I forgot which one he was. I can't remember his exact name. But he was one of the princes that was going to be kings in the 1800s. And it's interesting to see how different secret societies subvert another. Let's just say English Masonry, they've always tried to have a moral front. Now, they have allowed groups to exist like the OTO and the Golden Dawn and other groups, but they've always tried to have this moral front, whereas you would have more the Continental Masonry, sort of debaucherous, man. A lot of the groups that got involved there, sort of debaucherous. And he got involved in that. And he went on to not be king. I can't remember exactly his name right now. I'm not going to take the time to. Mr. LeBang knows if I can't find something, I'll drag on for 10 minutes trying to find it. So, but it was during the late 1800s, and they were sort of hamstrung. The aristocratic, more Rothschild masonry was sort of hamstrung, and and by doing this, not necessarily them being so much hamstrung, but the monarchy was. And from that time on, they really ceased to have any they were puppets. Like you said, they were puppets on a string. They became the puppets of Parliament and those that control Parliament, who are the Rothschilds.
Yeah, exactly. And just how I spoke earlier that I'm not going to jump on the Rand Paul bandwagon. I'm not going to jump on the
Rand Paul.
I'm not going to jump on the Israel bandwagon either, because the Rothschilds had their hand in the formation of that state, the country of Israel, and Netanyahu is just another puppet on the string. Everybody's either for Vladimir Putin in Russia, or they're for Netanyahu, but they're totally against Obama, when in actuality they're all one and the same. They're all playing to the same script, the same Hollywood movie script that has been written, centuries, years ago. And the Rothschilds control all that. The Rothschilds fund all that. You've heard the same speech before that, you control food, well, you control the people. Well, the same could be said that you control the money, you control the people as well, because of finance and industry and everything else.
We don't produce our own food, man. One of the things I ran on all the time here on the show, we have gotten that we consume, we don't produce, as far as our food thing. And that is I believe that is very instrumental over the decades and centuries as making us dependent. You're right on. Since that dollar is we're dependent on that dollar to get that food now. Hey, they are controlling the food, man.
Yeah, they are.
It's some pretty crappy food at that.
It is. And if you look at the Monsanto lobby, with the GMO and who's the money players behind that, look at all the politicians, former and still in office that, are included with the Monsanto people as well.
And here's another little side thing, and this goes right along with what you're talking about. People say they support Putin, but not Obama. Do you realize that under all this time, while everybody marches against Monsanto, and they talk about these countries, they go, Monsanto was kicked out of this country and that country. DuPont, their Pioneer Seed Division, they call them HI, slash bread, seeds. There was even a court case that goes back a few years where Monsanto was suing them for infringing on their rights, and they lost. Monsanto lost. These guys are in all those countries where they talk about Monsanto being kicked out. All of these countries where they talk about them kicked out, DuPont's there. You can go to DuPont's Pioneer seed thing and look at all the countries, just do a drop down. It's like, yeah, there's not a country in the world that's not on here. There's not a country. They have major input into China and a lot there. So yeah, it's all the same, man. Looking at that saying, you see how the deception's done, but also, once again, relating it to, they want to see Putin as the good guy and Obama's the bad guy. There's no good guy in this. Rand Paul's not the good guy. Ted Cruz is not the good guy.
Nope, not at all. And you can go back and look at it in layman's terms too, to the general listener out there. When you are at your job and you want that key promotion, but there's 3 or 4 other people in line for that promotion as well. So you're going to do whatever you can to, catch the eye of the boss and have him, be the one that signs off on your promotion. Well, it's the same thing with, the Netanyahus and the Putins and the Obamas and so on and so forth, is they're all wheeling and dealing, they're all backstabbing, they're all manipulating, not only, the masses of their country, but the people that are, under them, that are in power as well. They're all striving for that same key goal, and that is to be on that throne, with the Rothschilds, with the DuPonts, with, they're all members of family bloodlines of the Illuminati. And they're all playing that power struggle to catch the eye of the boss, and that boss would be, in this case, the Rothschilds. They're all, playing the part that they want them to play. They're just doing it in a different way, in a different aspect, whether it's, this nuke deal with Iran or Obama doing this deal with Cuba, all it is just key plays in this grand chess game for the New World Order, and we're all just following along with the notion. We don't question anything. We're just quick to blame. We're quick to blame Obama for this. Is Obama a good guy? Absolutely not. And I'm not endorsing Obama whatsoever. But you can't, blame Obama for this, but yet, excuse Netanyahu for that, or excuse Putin for this. When
are you criticizing Netanyahu and Israel,
yeah.
man?
Imagine that.
Oh my God, you're anti-Semitic.
I'm telling you, it goes back to the labels. As soon as you throw out a key, question or a key topic to discuss, they're quick to throw the labels at you. Are you liberal? Are you conservative? Are you right? Are you left? Are you anti-Semitic? Give me a break. Why don't you?
I'm not going to support any of them, but in the whole, if we think about the common sense of this, if you're going to support somebody, would it not be your own country? One of the things that Jefferson talked about, none of these entangled in relationships with other countries. Free commerce and relations, that's fine, but none of these entangled relationships. I see so many people that spout ideas, they say they're about freedom, but they're all about getting into entangled relationships. Guys, Israel can take care of itself. They really can. They can take care of itself. I won't get into the bad part of where they originated from or anything like that, but they can take care of themselves. They truly can.
It's all part of the plan, though, Robert, to make it so that you might have allegiance to another country instead of your own, and to not trust your own country. That's all part of the plan as well.
I just think it's interesting throughout history. Let me just call them what they are: Jews in name only. Jews in name only. You find wherever there's chaos. Now they've made it international, but wherever there's chaos, you always see these so-called Jews, not real Jews, not Orthodox, these so-called Jews. And they're right there involved, and it's all about them. Look at the French Revolution. You can look at the history of the French Revolution and all these Grand Orient Masons who were not Jews at all, but they were born Jewish, but they weren't Jews. Karl Marx was born Jewish, he wasn't a Jew. So, you find them involved. You find these guys right there. People are misled and they believe that, I understand. I truly do. I understand that there's like a salvation that they seek because they believe this is part of their religion, and they believe if they go against it, oh my God, let me just tell you guys, go find some quotes by Benjamin Franklin on some of those European Jews in name only. He knew what they were up to. He might as well have been talking about the Rothschilds in these quotes. He knew what they were up to. And these guys, they've always used it. They use the, now this is a different Zionism in a way, but during the Bolsheviks, you had two opposing parties here. You had your group that wanted to get, as far as the Jews go in that country, you had Orthodox Jews that wanted to get the hell out. And they were called Zionists. Now, their leader, I don't think he had so much good ideas and intentions, but you had a lot of Orthodox Jewish people. They're like, yeah, let's get the heck out of here. Well, look at what Russia's become. And then you had the opposing Jews in name only. Jews in name only that were, but both groups are subverted. Both groups have already been subverted. The Warburgs were funding the Grand Orient Jews, or Jews in name only, and the Rothschilds were funding the later, I think it was like the White Russian Army that was pushing against the Red Russians, and before that, the Zionist Jews in Russia. So both of the, it's always a big trick bag. That's what really gets me with these guys with the money. We can identify the revolutionaries and put them on a pedestal and say, hey, or a bad pedestal and say, hey, look what they've done. Manzini, Pike, but side note here, Manzini's a big hero. Manzini's a big hero in Italy. Imagine that. But, yeah. And so, you see these guys, look at them, but who keeps going on? That's the thing. These other guys get a bad name in history for the most part, but who keeps going on? The financiers, the Rothschilds, the Warburgs. Yeah. These guys, they're the ones that keep going on through the whole situation.
Yep.
Yeah. They make wine. They make wine and go to parties and wear weird little masks.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, cause I've studied the nefarious actions of organized crime in America and all that. And, Meyer Lansky funded a whole bunch and he handed it off to somebody else. And it's like, when you watch the movie Godfather, when Al Pacino's character, Michael Corleone, says, in 7 years, we're going to be legit. Guess what, folks? We are. I mean, that's according to them, and we can look at it from an outsider's point of view objectively and say, yeah, pretty much,
Yeah, you remember that thing they say, oh yeah, we got the mafia bosses. You hear people say, yeah, the Italian mafia, they're sort of suppressed, so forth and so on. No, maybe they were absorbed. Yeah. People said Adam Weishaupt, his group ended, but it didn't. You can look historically and see where, you have this group in Italy that takes it over, this group, so forth and so on. It's a diabolical situation. It really is, but I really do. I see, maybe they're not at the top of the pyramid, but your financial guys, like I said, Rothschilds, Warburgs, they keep going. They continue to perpetuate over and over. There's no way to keep them out of it. That's what really gets me. There's all kinds of ways to go against this diabolical system they have, but when you have someone funding something on such a level, and we are embedded in our whole Federal Reserve System, and then you have Tribute Day like we do now, today. Tribute Day, hey, make sure, guys, get there before it closes. Yeah, get there before it closes. Get your butt in your car and go pay the tribute to the king, to the Rothschilds and whoever supports them on down the line. And be a good little slave, because that's what a slave does. Yeah. He pays tribute to the king.
Yeah, and if you were to go and look at the history of the Federal Reserve too, that's another key clue as to how deep the Rothschilds' fingers are. With J.P. Morgan and Paul Warburg and the rest of them, manipulating the system to institute the Federal Reserve into this country. That's the Rothschild Central Bank in the U.S. is the Federal Reserve. And, we are debt slaves. We are slaves to the system, and there's no way of getting out of it unless we completely reform and, change the system for the better. And that's getting rid of the IRS. That's getting rid of the Federal Reserve, getting rid of all these institutions that do no, good for us. All it is, it brings harm, and it keeps us further under their control. Because once again, you control the money, you control the people. And, going back real quickly to, some more, history here, you spoke about Albert Pike earlier on the broadcast, and he wrote about the 3 world wars, and the first 2 came off, exactly as he had, wrote, and the third is, every day we're seeing that 3rd World War, being built up in the eyes that Albert Pike had wrote about, and it's just following that grand master plan. And it's, again, I go back to that analogy of a big Hollywood movie script that has been written, and each day is a new scene that's being played out in that Hollywood script. And every day we're seeing more and more things come to light. But if you would just, buckle down and look at everything as a whole and where we've come from, and understanding the past, you understand the future, and that's what a lot of people forget. And that's what a lot of people are not in tune to with all of these distractions and everything else that's going on. Instead of playing the blame game, how about you just do your research on the history, because the history will tell you where the future is, where we're going.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, if we intend to keep running on the gerbil wheel, it will definitely, and that's the thing. We got too many people running on the gerbil wheel. I believe this is as far as this goes, this is the physical reality we live in, but it is Matrix-like. It is Matrix-like because everyone with whether it be narcissism or just not paying attention to things or feeling defeated and what the hell, I give up. We play into it where we become subservient. We absorb. That's the thing people have to realize. Once you give up, then all original thought is out the window. It's all part of their system. It's all their ideas. That's what you're going to espouse, and that's what you're going to, I'll be honest, sometimes I look out there and I see the world, man. Guys, I see the world and I'm just like, oh my God. What could make it worse? Just all out war and chaos? Cause it's coming. Truly, I believe that everyone knows. That's one thing I want to talk about, in the next segment. I want to get into the ISIS thing. We can play it down. Just something I want to get into the next segment. We can play it down as, yes, this is funded, but people have to understand. Maybe the guys at the top of ISIS know it's funded, and maybe the guys at the bottom, but there still is a bloodthirsty radicalism. There's a bloodthirsty radicalism in here. And people have to, maybe we need to start taking some things seriously. I want to talk about what you guys think about. Is there a jihadi camp? Could there actually be a jihadi camp down in Mexico? But back to the Rothschilds and the monetary thing. It's very interesting to look at the British Empire. It's like this was their final, the Federal Reserve. Nick was talking about the Federal Reserve. This was their final, this is sort of their final kick. Because, they tried the War of 1812. They tried subversion. Do you realize Albert Pike was sort of a revolutionary, was sort of a aristocratic guy, posing as a revolutionary. Pike was funded by England. Albert Pike was funded by England. That was one big thing they wanted to do there, was that whole the Knights of the Golden Circle. Well, the Golden Circle was the South, Mexico, the Caribbean, going down into Central America a little bit, right in there. That was the Golden Circle. They were gonna continue slavery, but that was gonna be the new, farm, all these things. They were gonna be this empire. But who was gonna be running that empire? The British government, via the Rothschilds and via whoever controls them. It's amazing, these guys, but yeah, War of 1812, the Civil War. Over and over and over, they tried, and finally, Colonel House, he was very instrumental in this, finally got the whole Federal Reserve in. Finally got it in, and, really Wilson was nothing more than a spokesperson for Colonel House. 33rd degree Continental Mason, Colonel House. He was nothing more than a spokesperson. That's all he was, man. It's like, yeah, this is good. The whole League of Nations thing, their first attempt in the last century at forming a new world order. Oh yeah, it's good. Everybody should be on board for this. This is good. But behind the scenes, there you got that guy. I just think it's fascinating. This is my part. I think it's fascinating that there is so much history that you guys have gotten into, I've gotten into, but nobody else wants to get into. And it is history. Just because it's not written in your government compulsory education books, it is history.
It doesn't exist, man, if it's not in there. Come on.
The largest third party to ever exist in this country was the Anti-Masonic Party. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. And I mean, but let me just say, those guys were radicals too. Well, not necessarily radicals, but they were extremists. Because they took, I'm sure there were a lot of just basic 3-degree Blue Lodge Masons, believed they were Christians, so forth and so on, that suffered because of that. And so that's what we got to get past. We got to get, as Nick, you were talking about history, and when you're too, we got to get off the gerbil wheel. If we're really going to be free, we got to get past where I understand. If you're talking about you're going to tax me to take this money, or you believe in passing this law, to do that, I'm not too keen on what you think. I think you have a right to think it. I think these socialists in the country, they have a right to think it, and if they want to practice it in their little community, if they can form one, hey, more power to you. Really, more power to you. But as it's sort of like the gay agenda, any kind of agenda. Once it becomes a national political agenda, somebody's behind you. Somebody is behind you, and from the politicians on down to the supporters, they become lackeys and they become dupes. And so that's just what really gets me. We as Americans have become so content with being dupes. Saying somebody else's words, putting it out there like, oh yeah, hey, guess what? Somebody else said this. I trust them. It's true. So I'm going to say this. And if it is true, hey, repeat it. Report what they said. That's good. I'm all about that, but we fish in a man, anybody that's done fishing and they know where they fish, where there's multiple fish, some fish you're just not going to eat. Some fish you're going to throw it back. Nobody knows how to throw the fish back. They catch the carp and they take it home and eat it. They don't throw it back. Do you guys have carp, or is it just me in my area?
We have worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do live in a fascinating time. The Rothschilds. I really do, man. I think it's sort of comical. You see these pictures of these guys at little parties with masks on. I mean, we're not talking about like a clip from Eyes Wide Shut. No, you see pictures of these guys like from the 60s and the 70s with weird little masks on at weird little parties.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what they're involved in.
Look at some of the wine bottles. Look at the artwork on some of the wine bottles. It's like, come on, man. Really?
I mean, we can, I came from California, so I moved to Nevada, and not much of a change, but still, and Governor Moonbeam Brown is like, pretty much banned everything. I mean, he's just changing everything into a more, he's a puppet too, because somebody owns him and runs him.
Moonbeam Brown?
Yeah.
I have to say, man, I was listening to your podcast today. I'm going to steal a word from you. Skull plugged.
Yeah. Exactly.
Talking about the media doing stuff to people. Skull plugged. Well, guys, we should be going into break. There it is. We'll be right back here in just a few minutes, guys, to finish up the show. Here on Waking Up the Masses, right here on Truth Frequency Radio with my guest, Mr. Nick Tucker, and Wayne S. Pierce. We shall return.
Hey, Big Mouth. Yeah, you. Listen, I want you to put the word out on the street. Tell your coworkers, your family, your paisanos that my good friend, Joe Joseph, is doing a good thing here. He's sticking his neck out for me, for Sil, and for all the people in the world. Isn't that right, Sil?
He's part of the family now, Teach.
That's what I thought. So tune into him right here on Freedom Link, Monday to Friday, exclusively on the Truth Frequency Radio. Yeah, they're watching you. Big deal. They're watching me too. They're watching everybody. So grow some cojones and give them something to watch and listen to. Make them earn it. Give them paperwork until they choke. That's right. I know you won't let me down. So you're gonna put the word out about my good friend, Joe Joseph, right? Good. Now do me a favor and get out of here.
Sure am glad I tried that new Iodine Now microplant powder formulation. You liked it, huh? I told you it would change your life. Yeah, I feel fantastic, and I have so much more energy.
Hi, I have your Iodine Now delivery.
Oh, yes, my second order arrived. Thank you so much. Hey, buddy, why don't you ask this lady out for a date? Good idea. Now that I'm taking iodine now, I have the energy to enjoy my life again. It looks like you're getting back your old charm, buddy.
I'd love to go out to dinner with you. And can I try some of the iodine now?
Of course you can. You just delivered me a 1-year supply. Your future looks really great. I finally agree with you.
Iodine Now, part of the Micro Plant Powder family. Micro Plant Powder is available in 15 different formulations. Call 888-910-4367 or visit the website to find the one that's right for you. And listen to our new audio descriptions for every product only at hipusa.org.
In an emergency situation, would you drink contaminated water? You could if you had the amazing LifeStraw from MyPatriotSupply.com. LifeStraw is the most advanced personal water filter available today. It filters contaminated water from almost any source. LifeStraw is lightweight and compact, perfect for hiking, camping, or in an emergency like a flood. LifeStraw is easy to clean, comes with a 1-year warranty, and has been used worldwide since 2005. Get the amazing LifeStraw personal water filter at MyPatriotSupply.com. Plus, check out Survival Seed Vault, 20 seed varieties for only $37.95, Tatler canning lids, long-term storable foods as low as $69.95, and much more at MyPatriotSupply.com. Enjoy stress-free shipping on all orders over $49. Call 866-229-0927 or visit MyPatriotSupply.com. That's 866-229-0927. MyPatriotSupply.com for emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence.
Hangar 18, your TFR Roundtable. Saturdays on True Frequency Radio.
And we are back right here on Waking Up the Masses here on truthfrequencyradio.com. Guys, don't forget, right after this, you have the Kev Baker Show coming up, so don't forget to tune into that. And welcome back. Welcome back, and I have with me Mr. Nick Tucker of Facebook.com/Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker, as well as Mr. Wayne Pierce. You can check out his website, WayneSPierce.com. Welcome back, guys.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. So, Mr. LeBang, are you still there, sir?
I am here.
You're here. You are
yes.
there.
I'm letting you guys talk. I'm just sitting here listening and
just hanging out.
Yeah,
just hanging out.
Throwing my wise comment.
You got your all-seeing eye up on us, don't you?
I do.
I know.
You don't even know where it's at.
It's at where you're the eye in the sky. You can read our minds. I know. Do you know I had that song stuck in my head the other day? Old, what was it? 70s, 80s, Alan Parsons Project.
Which one?
Eye in the sky.
Eye in the sky. You know that one? Yeah, good rendition, I'm sure there. But welcome back, guys. Welcome to Waking Up the Masses. Okay, ISIS. Now, I think this ties right in. Looking at some history, which we'll get into later, but I think this ties right in with those that fund this system that they wish to break down mankind with. But ISIS, what do you guys think? All three of you, what do you think? Is there really an ISIS training camp right across the border? No, or have we been primed? Have we been primed to believe this?
I thought it was in Gitmo.
It was in Gitmo?
No, that's the recruiting station.
There we go. But are we looking at, is the media, because this was mainstream media, they suddenly jumped out. And let me just say, I don't trust Drudge anymore because he's sort of like the TMZ of news. Because there's just too much crap on there I don't care about. It's like, come on, man, too much mainstream. But the big red link. Don't forget the big red link's got to pop out at you. They're there they're there right over the border. I'm sort of split on this because let me tell you, if I had this bloodthirsty, group of radicals, I'm controlling them. Why not? If we theoretically or, hypothetically, if we look at their plans in the past and their object in the future, Why would they not do this? Why would they not do this? French Revolution, they emptied, many revolutions, the Bolsheviks, they emptied all the prisons. They made sure they let all the bloodthirsty murderers out. Anybody that could help them in their calls for justice, they would do this. I always say they perfect their doctrines over time. The doctrine of Weishaupt will not be the exact doctrine of today, but they perfected it. That's their belief. Always perfecting things. I was talking about the Rothschilds and the bankers of Europe meeting in the 1775. They understood the Peasants' Revolt of England 100 years or so before wasn't necessarily going to work the same way. So they had to work on it. They had to perfect it. People were actually too moral for it to work. They were too moral for it to work. So, over a period of a century, the demoralization had to come forth. And, they understood. There's a certain way we have to go about, and they eventually brought about the Reign of Terror, the French Revolution, through their funding and their philanthropic programs. When I say philanthropic programs, the public schools. Schools used to be taught by religious or entities. And granted, the Jesuits weren't the best of individuals, but you get a good education if you went to one of their schools. You would definitely understand that there were not 3 R's. There were 2 R's. I mean, there weren't 3 R's. There weren't even 2. But yeah, it's always been their plan. Revolution, dumbing down with the public, making them idiots, and then having a certain portion of the public, or introduced into the public, that did not mind to go that, let's say, extra mile. They didn't mind burning down some stuff, blowing some stuff up, killing some people, calling them heretics and killing them. Why wouldn't you release something like this on a country? I mean, think about what they could do. Because obviously, nobody wants to intervene and actually push these guys back too much. Okay? I mean, that's really the thing when we see here. We can say some of their videos are produced. I agree. I believe some of their videos are produced. But in reality, they're causing chaos. This group of individuals is causing chaos. So what are your thoughts before I rattle on too long? What are you guys' thoughts? What do you think? Is this real? Is it not? Are we still being pumped full of fear because they know most of America is basically sissified?
Wayne, I'll let you take this first.
Oh, okay. I have been looking into this claim that the ISIS camp is 8 miles away from El Paso, on the Mexican side, and I still haven't found any conclusive proof for me. I mean, somebody else may have it. That's fine. Present it. Let's see what you got. But I look at radicals like that. I mean, you're right, Bob. I mean, if you're controlling a bunch of bloodthirsty, animals, and you want to take over a certain territory, you're not going to wait. I mean, you're going to go full bore into, the heart of the beast and just rip apart everything and just do whatever you got to do to take it over. But on the other hand, on the other side of that, these people in, let's just say El Paso, are probably too indoctrinated with the mainstream narrative that they're just going to sit there and go, what? And when it's too late, when ISIS is in their streets, then they're going to say, why didn't anybody tell us about this? Well, that's why Nick Tucker and myself and you were here. We're trying to tell people. And, I don't think, like I said on my podcast today, nobody has the balls to stand up to them. I do. I know you guys do, but I mean, let's lock and load, but because we have a country to take care of, we got people to help and stuff like that. That's our duty, and it gets to that point where when you step back and you look at it and you look at the narrative, you look who's, implemented that narrative, it's all political theater. And you saw that with the debacle of Fast and Furious. Eric Holder got his hands caught in a cookie jar, and you can see the narrative there. I mean, it's all political theater. And
I have told it's a good friend of mine, it's a Muslim, and he is a very, very logical thinking. Like most Jews in this day and time, they don't follow that part of Deuteronomy that tells them if any of their family's a pagan, to kill them. They don't follow that anymore. No. They decided that it probably wouldn't work. But and so he sort of laughs. He goes, yeah, Judaism. He goes, Judaism, Islam. He goes, he sort of laughs. He goes, yeah. He goes, don't believe me, I kill you. Don't believe me. He sort of shakes his head. But see, what we have to understand is that, yes, these guys may not be following a, would you say evolved doctrine or anything like that, but it doesn't matter who's at the other end of the gun.
No.
It does not matter who's at the other end of the gun. There's still a gun. Well, we were talking about with the Rothschilds. Maybe they're not the tip of the spear, but they are the spear. But if they weren't there, somebody else would be there.
Right.
Somebody else. I believe in wholeheartedly that this is the worldwide. They want to let this extend, and this is a worldwide, shall we say, SA brown shirts, so they can come in and say, "Oh, these bad guys. Oh, these bad guys. We got to get rid of them." Yeah. We're Superman. Yeah. We'll take care of them. We'll stamp them out for you. All the time, as you said, you have individuals in this country that would say, hey, you're threatening the borders of this country, which I believe that should be the whole the whole mission of our military. You're you're threatening the borders of this country with chaos. No, we'll take care of that. History shows that most wars that are won by governments, most wars that are won by organized governments tend to be just another precursor to another war that has to be won by an organized government.
Yeah.
It's all the same. And then there's somebody financing the whole side.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, let's see, like the Rothschilds gambling on stuff. Yeah, well, not really gambling. They know who won, but so I agree. See, I'm not one of these people that say, y'all, that's just a big myth, and none of these guys are down there on the southern border. Why would you put them there? This is modus operandi for these guys.
Yeah.
Let the radicals out.
Yeah.
Castro did it in Cuba. Granted, the Batista regime wasn't some big, lovely thing, but when he went in there, he made sure all the bloodthirsty guys he could get, he would let loose. Castro and what was his name? Che Rivera. Yeah, he was. That's what he used this guy for. He was his revolutionary. He was. They said when they finally called him, he screamed like a little girl begging for his life. I can't remember. I think Bolivia maybe. Yeah, he screamed like a little girl begging for his life. But so they always use the bloodthirsty guys, and they don't care to sacrifice them. They don't care to sacrifice them. But isn't it interesting? Generations later, they're made into heroes. That's what really gets me, man. A lot of these guys that were, whether it be, I've seen people post quotes from Robespierre. It's like, guys, Robespierre was right there involved with everybody that was cutting off heads. That was causing chaos. Why are you putting a quote? He says something about freedom. Understand he's not talking about your freedom.
No. What do you think, Nick?
The bottom line is we need boogeymen. We need somebody out there to scare us, to provoke us, to get us, rallied behind the idea of going into a war or going in to invade a country, so on and so forth.
Yeah. What good is Superman if you don't have Lex Luthor, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And it's like, if you go as far back as 9/11, 9/11 was, orchestrated by so many hands involved, but yet the U.S. and, the countries that were involved in the plotting of 9/11, instead of going into those countries that, were involved, such as Saudi Arabia, Israel, U.S., British, so on and so forth, what do? Well, we go into Iraq, and we attack Saddam, who had nothing to do with 9/11 whatsoever. And we went on this fake notion of, he was involved somehow, some way. We'll find it out later. All we know is that we just got to go in and attack this guy. And with the morale of the country at that time, they're just looking for any excuse to go in and punish somebody for something that happened on 9/11. And it's the same thing with ISIS, going back to, all wars are banker wars. They fund both sides of every war. World War II, Vietnam, World War I, doesn't matter. They're all, financed by the same people. And it's the same thing with ISIS. ISIS is a creation by the globalists, through Al Qaeda and so on and so forth, that were all brought up to attack and to strike fear into the hearts and minds of people in this country, that country. It doesn't matter. So with the idea of ISIS having a big training camp on the border with the U.S. and Mexico, why not? Who's to say that they don't have a training camp in all 50 states? Who's to say that they're not already here? Who's who's to say that they're not waiting for that green light to go on and unleash, chaos and everything else. The idea that they could possibly be here is false, because they're already here. Whether it's through MK Ultra, through a certain speech, a certain word, a certain color, a certain blink, whatever the case may be. It's going to set them off, and they're just waiting for that prime opportunity. And whether that's in the next presidential selection next year or before, we are going to see, another major false flag happen. And it's going to be just that, a false flag. Is it, real chaos? Is it real terror? Is it real, bloodthirsty, guys that want to go out there and inflict harm? Of course. But it's a controlled chaos by the globalists, by the men behind the scenes, and they're going to do it. And it's just a matter of when, how, and on what scale. But they are going to do it. We've seen it time and time again, false flags throughout history, Gulf of Tonkin, 9/11, so on and so forth. And the key factor is who was the money guy? Who was the people behind it? Well, it's the same people that are behind your politicians. It's the same people that are behind ISIS. It's the same people that are behind all destruction throughout the world. And the idea that, they might be here. No, the idea is they are here. It's just a matter of where and when and how big of an attack are they going to inflict.
Isn't it interesting that the Gulf of Tonkin was brought to us by the admiral who was the father of the guy that brought us break on through to the other side?
Oh, yeah, Jim Morrison.
That's right. Right there with Mr. Johnny McCain's daddy. Oh, hey.
Jeez.
Oh, hanging out, man.
I'd just like to say, though, they did invade one more country that you said they didn't. You said that they didn't invade the U.S. by the militarized police. I would say they are fully invaded into this country.
Oh, indeed. So much. Which brings me to one more thing here. With this, I find it very interesting that with this announcement, what do we have going on out there with you guys? Nick and Wayne, what do we have going out there in the Southeast? About time to ramp up that Jade Helm, huh?
Yeah.
Let's practice being police state. It's practice police state, man. Don't worry about it. It's just practice.
It's practice a lot of different things. It's practice being terrorist. It's practice being a police state. It's practice at, I don't know, a whole bunch of different crisis things that we don't even know that haven't been published. And what actual created disasters are going to happen? Prime for something.
We are an occupied country, there's no doubt about that, and we are not, we talk about our freedoms and freedom of this and freedom of that. Well, let's be honest here, let's wipe the slate clean. We are not free. We are not a free people. We are not in a free country. We have all these military exercises that take place on U.S. soil every day. All the people want to make fun of these tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists talking about, all these black helicopters and everything else. Well, it's on the freaking local news, in places like Miami and LA and elsewhere that, hey, there are black helicopters, and hey, there are militarized police that are out there, training and preparing. And Jade Helm is another example of that. We are in a police state. We are in a dictatorship of sorts. We have been. It's just a new face, in the suit. Whether it's Obama, Clinton, Bush, it doesn't matter. They were all the same. Reagan, everybody's, so high on Reagan. Reagan was the same way. They're all, controlled in different ways, but they're all controlled.
Don't you talk about those conservatives heroes like Reagan.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Hey, we were speaking about Ted Cruz earlier. Doesn't he got that Reagan hairstyle going, man? That real slick kind of hair thing going on?
And he's got that nice little speech to him too, where, he's out there and he's using all the big words and he's, real, easy, to listen to. And he's got it down. They've all got it down because they're all groomed, whether it's through the Bilderberg Group or through Bohemian Grove or the CFR, the Trilateral, the Club of Rome. It doesn't matter. They're all groomed. They're all handpicked. They're all chosen, to be, the leader of this corporation that is the United States. We talked about the Act of 1871 bringing, DC, District of Columbia in, and then we talk about the Federal Reserve, and then we talk about the IRS. We're not free. We have not been a true free country for a long, long time. And, when you talk about this to the general audience out there, they look at you as if you're crazy because they haven't been told this. They haven't been explained this. We talked about earlier the government indoctrinations, which is public education. The history books, the arithmetic, all of it is handpicked and chosen by the elite to keep us in the dark, to keep us dumbed down. They don't tell you about false flags. They don't tell you about military operations that take place within the United States, seemingly on a daily basis. They don't tell you about any of this stuff. We are not a free country. You talk about the 3 city-states, you talk about the Vatican, you talk about City of London, you talk about Washington, D.C. What do they all have in common? Well, the common goal is for the New World Order, to keep us all suppressed.
And the doctrine they want to perpetuate, and I've always said, if you look deep at the symbolism, the big obelisk, the big stone penis they have there, that represents their doctrine. They're telling you, man. They're putting it in your face. Hey, look at this. Choke on this. That's what they're telling us.
Everything is in plain sight. All of the symbols, the symbology is everywhere. Whether it's Masonic, whether it's Illuminati, it doesn't matter. All of it is right in front of our faces. We're hearing it in the music. We're seeing it in the music videos. We're seeing it in TV shows, movies, whatever the case may be. We're seeing it on a daily basis, and we're just given this information overload that it's back into our subconscious mind. So when it does happen, when the big event does happen, we're numb to it, to a point to where they're going to get the reaction out of us that they want. If you talk about 9/11, leading up to 9/11, we had the TV shows, we had the comic strips, we had all this,
the lone gunman.
Exactly. Little hints, little subtle hints out there of, hey, this is going to happen on this day. And at that time, obviously, we didn't know what any of this meant.
Back in 1970 something, there was a picture of Cookie Monster taking big bites out of the, it was on a Sesame Street comic book. And there were pictures of Cookie Monster with the crescent moon, with the star there, and he was taking big bites out of the 2 towers.
Exactly. And going back to the subconscious mind, how all this information is already pre-programmed into our minds, and you always hear the same old thing. Well, the military will never turn on the people. Oh, well, they will never do this. Well, let's talk about, for a second here, the transhumanism. Let's talk about that agenda. Let's talk about Boston Dynamics and having Google buying out Boston Dynamics along with some other robotic companies. They're bringing in these robots, the drones, that are controlled by, a video game controller by one guy in a control booth. You get somebody, you talk about the sick and bloodthirsty, criminals out there that just want to go rampaging and kill innocent people. We'll give them a video game controller and a screen to look at and have them control of a drone, which nowadays more and more drones are autonomous and they don't need a human, counterpart to control that drone. So, everything is there. And if you look at the movies, if you look at Interstellar, if you look at, the movie with Johnny Depp, it just tells us.
Age of Ultron coming out.
Exactly. They show us on a daily basis that this is what's here, this is what's coming, be prepared. Well, how do they prepare us? By putting that information back into their subconscious mind. If you look at the Winter Soldier, the latest Captain America movie, they talk about Hydra, they talk about the New World Order, they talk about the agenda. It's all there, but because it's in a form of entertainment, it can't be true. It's not true because it's in a form of entertainment. And you're just, picking, entertainment, ideas out of the sky and saying that this stuff is real. Well, this stuff is real if you would just take the time to, do your research and your homework on it. So we don't have to have this conversation of, well, the human being won't turn against the other human being when history shows us in the past that, no, they do turn on their own fellow man. But now we're moving into this transhumanism idea, with the, Google is Skynet and Boston Dynamics and so on and so forth. So, the future is really grim and is grim to talk about. But it's healthy to have these discussions because if we don't have these discussions, then nothing will ever truly change.
You mentioned Pike's letter on the 3 world wars. Isn't it interesting where he talks about at the end there that the Luciferian doctrine finally comes out into the public? Well, what is the Luciferian doctrine? You get to be God. Mr. LeBang and I talk about transhumanism here a lot, and it goes way back. It really truly goes way back in the mystery schools. You get to be God. Hey, all that other stuff, don't worry about that. You're at the highest degree now. You get to be God, which I think is very, it points to, look at all the narcissism that we have in our world now. In this country, man, we are the narcissist state of America. So many sheep that want their And they don't even have 15 minutes of fame. They just have it in their mind. You know, it's amazing. Now, before we only have about 4 minutes left. We can, on a lighter note, both of you guys actually do, you know, unlike myself, I'm a conspiracy nut, all on its own, but both of you guys have other stuff you do. Let's see, Mr. Nick Tucker. Behold an Uprising.
Yeah,
let me say real quick, back in the late 80s, well, I guess you'd say early 90s. I was a big boy. I worked out, like powerlifting worked out. And I was a sparring partner for what Behold an Uprising does. And let me just say, so many people think that there's nothing, people say, what are you talking about? So many people think there's nothing involved in this sport, which there is some pain involved. There's definitely, but tell us about your other venture here.
Yeah, my other venture is professional wrestling. I've been a professional wrestler for 14 years, you know, and just because you know, people have this idea that it's sports entertainment now, which, you know, in turn it is to a point. But yes, there is real pain involved. There is, you know, injuries involved. You know, I've gotten my handful of concussions. You know, I've got a bad back, bad knees, so on and so forth. But I've been doing it for 14 years, and it's my outlet to get my aggression out that I can't, you know, do without offending somebody on a Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker podcast. It's my area to vent, you know, and as a matter of fact, I just wrestled at the Cauliflower Alley Club here in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is a reunion of sorts of all the former pro wrestlers from, you know, way back in the day. They all come together and they hand out awards, and it's just a big meet and greet with the fans and whatnot. And they had the opportunity of defending my championship here locally, Big Valley Wrestling. It's a local wrestling company here that I'm involved with, and I'm the champion of the company, and I defended the belt at the CAC, and it was, you know, a real good opportunity to, you know, show what we can do and showcase, you know, some of our younger guys out there. But yeah, I've been involved in pro wrestling.
Yeah, like I said, this has been a couple of decades ago, but I was a sparring partner for someone to practice on because I was a real big boy, and it hurts. It hurts, guys. Mr. Wayne S. Pierce. Yes. Of course, you're not just a conspiracy nut alone. Also, we just have about a minute left. So, acting.
Yes. I have a theater background, and I'm currently working on some radio plays right now, writing them, and need voice actors to fill the roles. But other than that, that's what I do. That's my outlet. I'd love to wrestle. I'd love to manage. I'd love to do that. It was I saw some little people wrestling, wee people, the midget wrestling here from about a month or so ago. It's fun. It's just really, really fun. So, and congrats, Nick.
It takes skill. It really does. It's not just beating up on each other. It takes skill. Well, guys, thank you very much. We're coming here to the end. Once again, Mr. Wayne S. Pierce, you guys can go to WayneSPierce.com. Check out his podcast, check out his stuff. Mr. Nick Tucker, go to Facebook.com/Distorted Reality with Nick Tucker and check his out. I know you're probably going to be powering up your podcast soon, aren't you, man?
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
All right, cool. Well, I believe there should be the outro music. There it is. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in today here on Waking Up the Masses, right here on TruthFrequencyRadio.com. Hang in for the Kev Baker Show coming up next.
Truth Frequency Radio is your #1 source for news and information without the hate, hype, and fear. We are proud to bring you cutting-edge programs like The Kev Baker Show,
The Christopher Everard Show,
The Freedom Link with Joe Joseph,
Truth Frequency with Chris and Sherry Gio,
Red Pill Reports
with J.D. Moore,
X Squared with Brooks Agnew,
Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye,
Freaky Friday
with The Woo Crew,
Waking Up the Masses
with Robert Bruce,
Phoenix Rising Radio,
and dozens more.
Did you know you can listen from any computer, mobile device, or from any telephone by dialing 832-225-5308.
Or call into your favorite show toll free at 866-37-TRUTH.
Uncensored talk and news you won't hear in the mainstream media.
24 hours a day.
Truth Frequency Radio. Wherever
wherever you are. Make it TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.